0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Good evening, Atlanta. It is 6:10. I'm Eric Erickson, and this is WSB and Atlanta's Evening News. A real quick check of the radar. We've got that flash flood warning now for Bartow County, parts of Cherokee County. Heavy rain in the Canton area. Real heavy band of showers around Tucker, Scottsdale, headed out towards Snellville, Loganville, Grayson. You got heavy rain also along I-20 from the perimeter on the west side all the way out past Villarica. Heavy rain in Carrollton, headed towards Noonan. Some showers down around the McDonough area. Just hit or miss showers, but where they are, they're kind of strong today. There is a lot to talk about today. You have the president's North Korea situation. You have the polling on Republican voters showing an increasing right-wing authoritarian tilt. You've got the suggestion that the DNC was not hacked, but it was an inside job, a dubious report no less. Be skeptical of it. To start all of these stories off, I want to talk about two unrelated stories, but if you will bear with me, there's a method to my madness here, and I think it's really, really necessary. Yesterday I told you about the sad situation with, I think his name is Kendrick Johnson, down in Valdosta. He reached behind some bleachers in a gymnasium at a high school in Valdosta, Georgia, fell down. He was trying to get sneakers, apparently, fell down behind the bleachers and asphyxiated. It was one of those retractable bleacher systems. They closed him up in it. He couldn't get out. He suffocated. His parents were convinced that he had been murdered. They accused two boys by name, one of whom's father was an FBI agent. They accused the school superintendent of being in on it. They accused the sheriff of being in on it. They accused the school superintendent's daughter of setting up her father, the superintendent, to find the body. They were able to get TV news magazines. Don't hold me to it, but I think it was 60 Minutes. It might have been Dateline, NBC. It was one of them. Did a huge profile on this, suggesting there was foul play. And, you know, the story, the narrative of the story was it was black versus white, rural South Georgia. There was a cover-up, potential civil rights investigation. There was so much national media coverage of it that the U.S. Department of Justice under Eric Holder got involved and investigated it. And it turned out that there was no foul play. It turned out that the boy had not been murdered. It turned out that the boy, actually, it was an accident. His parents have been ordered by a judge now to pay $300,000 to the individuals they accused of murder. There's another story out that is relevant to this, another huge, high-profile story that we discussed on this program several years ago, and thankfully I kind of covered it the way it should have been covered. Thank goodness, because if I'd bought into the press reports, we would have had trouble here today, but there's a method to this madness. Bear with me. It is all relevant to the president of North Korea, I promise. But first, let's go check with Doug Turnbull on traffic.
Found a brand new problem on the perimeter here, Eric, at 513 WSB. Here's what we got. 285 south, the outer loop, South Cobb Drive. New crash, two left lanes, and you are jammed solid back to Georgia 400. Over 55 minutes to get there just from 400. On your outer loop into Cab Ride, 30 minutes. 285 east and north Boulder Crest, that earlier wreck at Church Street. And your inner loop ride's getting worse by the second. 285 eastbound, really jamming in from Dunwoody over to 85. That's because that HOT lane is still blocked with that stalled bus. 85 north and around Steve Reynolds, Eric.
Thank you, sir. Okay, back in January of 2015, a fashion blogger out in Dallas, Texas, she had a fancy wedding at the Petroleum Club in downtown Dallas, a beauty blogger, the love of her life. And then in January of 2015, KXAS, which is the NBC affiliate in Dallas, ran a story that their wedding photos were being held hostage by a wedding photographer. The wedding photographer was demanding $150 more after the couple had paid thousands of dollars already and wouldn't hand over any of the photographs to the couple. Wanted thousands of dollars more from this couple to hand over the photos. And the couple was having none of it. The couple was not going to pay. They'd already paid thousands of dollars. They had ruined, this photographer had ruined this couple's wedding. It went from a local NBC story to a national NBC story to a national viral story on the internet. The photographer's name is Andrea Polito. And the blogger was named, Neely Moldovan. She's a beauty fashion blogger on the internet of some note in Texas. And her supporters swamped Andrea Patillo's review pages, ruined her reputation. They literally drove her out of business. She could only get 2 clients after this story broke. All of her other clients canceled on her. Because this is a photographer who charged a client thousands of dollars and then still would not hand over the photographs for the couple until they paid $150 more. And the couple was having none of it. They stood up to the woman. They went to the press. And none of it was true. You see, they had signed a contract with a photographer, and the photographer, a lot of photographers now, they have this problem where if they hand over the photos to the couple without the couple paying, then the couple, they walk away with the photos. They walk away with the digital prints, and the photographer loses money. So the photographers charge money up front to come shoot the wedding, and then what the photographers do is they build a photo album for the couple. They send the couple proofs that are usually small square pictures, and the couple picks out the ones that they like the best, and then the photographer builds them a photo album for $150, $200. Customizes everything for them and hands it to the couple, and that is the finished product, and that's what the contract said. Well, she explained to the couple, the photographer did, that was their contract. And the woman had a meltdown that she was being forced to choose 80 pictures out of 4,000. And she didn't like that. She wanted all 4,000, and she did not want to pay for those pictures. Now, what they originally paid for was the time of the photographer and the photographer's crew to come out and do the engagement photos, to do the wedding photos, to do the wedding rehearsal photos, to do the after party photos, the all of it. Just $150 more to actually get the finished product. And instead they ran to the press. And the press destroyed the photographer's reputation. In fact, NBC wound up walking the story back several days later. The photographer had provided her side of the story, and NBC didn't use it initially, and the story that went viral was without her statements. And when she released her statements, NBC, they finally walked it back, but it never got as much attention. It's like the NBC putting a hit job of the president on the first page. They get the details wrong and they walk it back a few days later. No one pays attention to the correction, or a tweet that gets something wrong that is circulated by tens of thousands of people and the correction only gets circulated by 100 people. That's what happened here. A jury in Texas has awarded the photographer $1 million. Turns out she did nothing wrong. The couple was trying to break contract with her. And when she wouldn't let them break the contract, they destroyed her reputation and they destroyed her business. But the media was complicit in this, just like the media was complicit in that story in Valdosta. Or you've got the story of the New York Times. The New York Times releasing a draft climate change report, breathtaking report. Climate scientists fear this report is going to be suppressed. They leaked it to the New York Times. If it wasn't leaked to the New York Times, it would not have gotten out. Sensational report. The United States is going to be destroyed by climate change. It is irreversible at this point, regardless of what we do. If we all stopped breathing tomorrow and stopped every cow on the planet from farting, temperatures would still go up a 0.5 degree Celsius. There's nothing we can do, and you wouldn't know it but for the New York Times, someone leaking them the report yesterday. Except the report was published in January. Someone from the Obama administration released it before President Trump became president. The New York Times has had to walk that back too. All of these stories are people masterfully playing to the biases of the press. The Google story. To this day, in 3 days of this story, no actual reporter on TV has accurately covered the memo at Google. They've all said it was an anti-diversity, sexist screed where the man blamed biology, which none of that is true if they read the memo. And they all got it wrong. They got that wrong. They got the photography story wrong. They got the Kendra Johnson death story wrong. They got the climate change story wrong. So tell me this. Do you really trust them to get the North Korea story right? Do you really trust them to get the story about Republican authoritarianism in the polling right? Do you really trust them to get the climate change story right? Do you really trust the media at this point? If so, I got a bridge to sell you.
Atlanta's news, weather, and traffic, plus WSB's Eric Erickson. Atlanta's Evening News, sponsored by Comcast Business. This is WSB.